Hello everybody, my name is Jeff Pierce. I'm an 8th grade science teacher at Ford Middle School in Allen ISD. Sorry I couldn't be with y'all at the conference today. I was off on vacation with my family in the Dominican Republic. We all take a big, huge family vacation, me and my brothers and my parents every year, and we kind of scheduled it at this time, so my apologies for not being there with y'all today. Uh, me and my teammates started our Flip Mastery this past year, and we were kind of wanting to share a little bit about what Flip Mastery was and how we instilled that. Got the idea from last year at our Flip Mastery conference, and we had John Bergman come and present. And one of the things that he presented in a little side lesson was about Flip Mastery. And it really got me thinking about how we teach. And I kind of took some of his ideas and ran with them, changed them up a bit to make them fit our model that we have at Ford and how things need to run within a scope and sequence and how we need to prepare people for testing, for benchmark testings and whatnot. So we kind of modified things a little bit, and I thought his model was a little too extreme for middle schoolers. So I really have learned to love doing Flip Mastery. It is a lot of work. I am constantly going in the classroom, never sitting down. There was a joke at one point that you couldn't find me in the classroom, and if you walked in, I wouldn't know you were there, and that the students use my desk more than I do, which is probably true. They'll go over and sit down at my desk quite often. So kind of want to tell you why use Flip Mastery. What's the big deal going on with Flip Mastery today, and what it kind of give you an introduction to what it's all about. Well, if we start looking at it and what Flip Mastery is that we've had this gap in our education over the years that has kind of been developing and is getting wider. So if we're going to kind of look at how Flip Mastery can kind of fill in that gap in our education. But let's start off with a little history lesson. And we look at early education. So you can see here's a picture of a classroom. This is a classroom from 1905. And things pretty much are the same today as they were back then. You had a teacher, got up, gave the information to the kids. Kids are expected to learn it and practice it a little bit. Now, we have changed slightly, but we still have the same basic thing. We have a teacher who gets in front of the kids and gives them the information they expected to practice. The difference is today that we keep adding technology in. We add more ways for the students to be engaged in their education. But it's still a same basic principle. On what we're doing today is that the teacher teaches, the students are supposed to learn it. And we have a lot of our focus on how well we teach and and our teaching methods. When we don't really focus our whole outcome on what we need it to be is on learning. How are our kids learning? And so my Flip Mastery kind of has shown to us how we can kind of flip that model. Let's not worry about how well we teach and how we're teaching things, because we really don't teach anymore. And that's one of the things that our students came up and he goes, you just don't teach us anything. But we ask, well, are you learning? They'll go, yes, we are learning things. You're just not teaching us. Because the way we do things have changed so much. So Flip Mastery, we've taken all this technology and we're actually applying it in a different way. Instead of us up there disseminating information, here you go, here's what you need to know, now practice it. And using technology to practice and get that information, we've kind of taken it now, so the kids are now going to be learning a little bit on their own. So they're actually taking the ownership of their education. So here's that chasm we're talking about. And as you think about it, 30 years ago, students, the jobs that students had when they were in school that they could get when they graduated were pretty much set. You could be a doctor, a mechanic, an electrician, a lawyer, a banker, work in marketing, work in communications. Jobs were pretty much known. But interesting thing, recent study done by the U.S. Department of Labor says that 65% of today's grade school kids will end up at a job that hasn't been invented yet. So the old method worked great. We knew what kind of jobs that were out there for our kids. Today, we have no clue what kind of jobs our kids are going to have. What do those jobs look like? So now, all of a sudden, we have this big old chasm in the way we teach in our education system, where we're not quite preparing the kids for their future, for a future job. Because we don't know what those jobs are. How can we predict what those jobs are if they haven't been invented yet? What are they going to be doing? So Flip Mastery is actually allowing us to jump that gap and actually find out and prepare those kids for future jobs that don't exist yet. So let's kind of look at that. So we jump over the chasm. We have Flip Mastery is going to take us there. So here is a recent thing out of Forbes magazine, the 10 jobs that didn't exist 10 years ago. So some of these you may not know. I'm not going to go into details about all of them. You can kind of, some of these you may know what they are, but you can look on Forbes, and if you want to get the jobs description. But here's the top. Here's 10 jobs that didn't exist 10 years ago: an app developer, a data miner, admissions consultant, millennial generational expert. Wow, that's one I've never heard of. A social media manager, managing social media sites. Chief listening officer. I thought this was an interesting one. Someone who sits out on the web all day on social media sites and picks up on the trends that are going on so their company can jump on the trends. We all heard of the cloud. Now we have cloud computing services. Elder care, because of the baby boomers here are retiring. Sustainability expert. User experience design. So these are all jobs that were not in existence 10 years ago. So people are actually going out and being the first ones to be in these jobs. And that's what's going to happen to many of our kids in our classrooms today, is they're going to go out and they're going to probably be one of the first ones to do a job. Nobody's done it before. So who's going to teach them how to do that job? Well, they're going to have to learn it themselves. They're going to have to figure that out on their own. And that's exactly what Flip Mastery does, is it's going to give the students the ability to learn on their own. So it's a little bit of a different focus. So let's look at how we need to change. So to prepare our kids for these jobs that are out there that don't exist, how are we going to prepare them? Well, we need to prepare the students to learn on their own. That's key. So they need to have skills. If I don't know something, how am I going to figure this out? How can I problem solve efficiently? We need to focus, take a shift of focus from teaching our kids to actually our kids learning. Yeah, I know you can say our standardized tests are focused on how kids are learning, but when we look at their learning, what do we go back to? They're not learning what they need to do. We go back and look, okay, how are we teaching them? Are we teaching them right? Well, our focus doesn't need to be on how are we teaching them right. We need to keep our focus on the learning. That's actually the ultimate goal in education, is to get kids to learn. So if we take our shift from how we're teaching and focus it on the learning, the teaching will take care of itself. So we've kind of got a backwards view, in my opinion, of how we see this. And then teachers need to become facilitators. So instead of teaching, we need to facilitate learning. And that's kind of the key thing, is that we need to be a guide showing them how to gain information. So how will Flip Mastery help this? Well, it's going to require students to learn the material and not just listen to it. We have a lot of kids, and I love this. I heard this several times about kids who who are adapted to education. That they can go through the whole way. You know, those students who can make straight A's without studying, without doing anything, because they know how to play the system. They've learned over the years how to play the educational system. So they hear the material and they can regurgitate it real easily. That's all they need. But are they actually learning the material? Probably not. So we need to actually have them learn the material and apply the material and use the material and not just listen to what's going on. The next thing is to put focus on learning and take the focus off of grades and teaching. That's another big thing, and that's hard sometimes for parents to even grab hold of, is that in my classroom, I'm not concerned about your grade. Your grade means nothing to me. Your learning means everything. And so you often see that I often give a lot of hundreds in my class. They'll come up and we'll go over a paper together, and if things aren't right in it, I send it back and say, let's go fix this. Let's figure this out. Let's do this right. And they'll bring it back to me for 100 if they can get it all done. And so the grade doesn't mean anything. It's really easy to make good grades in my class as long as you're learning. And that's where our focus needs to be on, is on the learning instead of the grades. Then we also need the kids to, Flip Mastery also has the kids take ownership in their learning. And it takes it from the teacher's hands and puts it in the student's hands. So they're responsible for their education. They're responsible for what they learn. And I always love the comment, well, you didn't teach me that, or you didn't teach me that well. Well, when I put it in their hands, I found that, it's not me who's doing the bad job. They realize, well, I'm not focusing my learning on that part. And their aspect kind of changes, and it's not the blame on the teacher because I'm not getting this. They'll kind of take and go, okay, now I didn't learn it. Now I've got to figure out how to learn this. And then Flip Mastery also allows us to adapt to many learning styles. So we kind of, our education system is kind of a, we try to differentiate and do things for different learning styles, but it's really, we kind of have a cookie cutter teaching system where we teach to the middle often. We try to pull in extensions for kids who are going beyond. We try to pull up the lower learners, but it's not really effective. But what Flip Mastery does is it really allows us to adapt to many different teaching styles. I can spend more time one-on-one with the student. I learn how they learn. I figure out what they need, and I can provide them that. Which oftentimes in our standard model of teaching, we don't get that. We try to throw out different learning styles to them and facilitate those, and it's kind of hit or miss. But I can adapt so every single time that student's learning, they're learning in a style that they're accustomed to. It also helps students learn on their own, which is kind of the essence of it, is that they're figuring things out on their own. And when you figure something out on your own, instead of somebody telling you, when you figure it out, you have a much better grasp of the material. And we've been seeing that they're grasping the material and understanding it at a deeper level than when we were just say, okay, here's this is what you're going to get out of it, now do this is what you should have got out of it. We're finding out when they're actually learning on their own and taking ownership, they learn things a lot deeper. So why Flip Mastery? Well, it's because it's going to help adapt our kids to their future jobs. We don't know what those jobs are going to be, and it's going to give us a way to reach them. So that's kind of what it is, and you'll see Miss Palmer and Mrs. March walking around today, and feel free to ask them questions, and they'll kind of get you into the guts of what Flip Mastery is a little bit more. Hopefully we can get Skype working today, and if you have questions for me, hopefully if the Skype will work from Dominican Republic, I'll be Skyped into the classroom at some point today. So if you do have questions, you can come ask me. I want to thank you all for coming, and I hope you learn a lot today. Thank you very much.